Follow the money.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money.
Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Pauly Howard on VSiN.
Welcome in. It is Follow the Money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. This show is brought to you by DraftKings. Mitch Moss, Pauly Howard. Live this morning, as always, in downtown Las Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino. And that is where Mike Palm joins us on a weekly basis as well. He is the maestro. He's the VP of this great property, along with the Golden Gate and the D here in downtown. Mike, good morning. How are you today?
Good morning, Mitch. Good morning, Paul.
Hey, Mike.
Good morning to Hamden, Connecticut, all of our loyal Nesson family that's watching. Danforth, Illinois, Peekaboo Marquee, we see you. Smoky Lake, Alberta, in the Edmonton area, everyone watching on Rogers Sportsnet north of the border, we say good morning. Bryson City, North Carolina, our growing and very vocal Masson audience. Donegal, Pennsylvania, everyone watching on Sportsnet in the Pittsburgh area and beyond in Pennsylvania. Joplin, Missouri, good morning to you watching on YouTube TV. And Garden Grove, California, it's another sunrise over Spectrum.
We have no hyperbole coming up in 15 minutes, the biggest gaps of the previous week. We'll get your thoughts on Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final tomorrow night. I want to begin with this. Circa offers a yes-no market on most of their menu, right? Will a team win the championship? Yes, plus 250, no, minus 320, whatever it is, right? So there was a story this week, Rufus Peabody, professional sports bettor, one of the very best, and he's probably the best golf bettor in the world. He laid a big price on Bryson DeChambeau to not win the U.S. Open. He came on with Gil Alexander, the show that follows us here. He explained it and tried to hedge out of that bet. I'm not asking about him. I'm asking overall about the yes-no here. Do you see a lot of action on the big no prices that you offer?
Yes.
You do?
Yes, and it's a problem. In general, we will offer a no price on anything that's 200 to 1 or less on the yes, because the numbers get so staggering. But since we're one of the few that offer it, and one of the only one in many markets that offer the no, it's a lot of one-way action for us. The problem, Mitch, is in the futures market, and I'm not saying I don't know when he made the Bryson bet, but I'm going to give you an example.
Okay.
The Cardinals, the Arizona Cardinals, they're a plus 12,500, so 125 to 1 to win the Super Bowl. They're minus 45,000, so 450 for a dollar not to win it. But let's say someone wants to come in and lock up some money because the Cardinals are not going to win it. And they come and they bet $45,000 when we post this right after the Super Bowl to win 1,000. The problem is the federal government sports betting excise tax, which has you pay 0.25% of all tickets written. That compounds for every month that ticket doesn't get decided. All right? So we have to sit on that ticket for 12 months and pay 0.25% every month, which is 3% of the ticket. So if the Cardinals do not win the Super Bowl this year, we pay that bettor $1,000, $46,000 back, but we also have to pay the federal government $1,350.
You're kidding.
No. Which is why it's very easy for offshore bookmakers to offer smaller straddles and better odds. They're not paying that tax.
I was unaware of this.
It's a tough market for us offering the no. It's a negative EV thing. You know, we do it as a service to the customers, but we've scaled back on how many markets we offer the no on.
Has there been a discussion about eliminating more of it?
Well, we continue to assess every month and look at these things. But we're asking about hanging the NBA odds for next year. I'm like, well, yeah, we don't want to take 100,000 in bets tonight because we're going to be paying 3,500 to the government on that.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I also like what they just put up, all the yes-no on undefeated teams in college football. And then Mitch making the case, let's just come in, you can parlay all the no's because you can dismiss so many teams. Not all of them obviously listed. It's not a long list, but it's a good list of some of the heavy hitters or teams where you think, okay, well, Notre Dame, whoever, or are they really going to run the table, Texas, somebody like that with their schedule?
Yeah, I think it's a great way to look at it. I love the Bucks not to win the East this year. Mm-hmm. I talked about that with Scotty Tribuker midway through the NBA season. I think he pounded it pretty well. Another one to look at might be the WNBA this year because the Aces were so short, and they're a popular team out here in Las Vegas to offer the yes-no. When they were really struggling before the numbers changed, I think you could have grabbed a plus number on them not to win the WNBA title. So things like that is something to always consider.
Well, for the better, it's terrific because you don't have to identify a team.
No,
right. I want to fade X team. Now I got to come up with A, B, and C to win it to fade X. Instead of you can just directly fade X.
Sure. Wild. I never knew about the tax thing.
The taxes. We've been fighting for this, and that's why I'm on the American Gaming Association Board of Directors and continuing to push and push and push. But now they've introduced a bill in Congress that says half of the excise money goes to problem gambling. Now it's going to be really hard to repeal it because there's we're not,
Okay.
We have a much better shot of getting the slot threshold raised for taxables than this excise. But this excise tax is brutal.
Okay, because
I thought they were doing this. Are they doing that finally?
Yeah, well, they still need to get past one, but hopefully they're going to raise it up to 7,500.
Yeah. That was done in 1977.
Yeah, I know.
What they put that in place, $1,200.
Yeah, I know. Now it's like 9,300 is the real value of it.
Is that right?
Yeah, I mean,
think about
it's,
it.
it's an antiquated thing.
Yeah, the fact that it's still
Well, how
$1,200
about all
to
the
hand pay
labor
jackpot.
that it takes on all these small jackpots for people having to process this? And it kicks people off machines while they got to do their tax paperwork.
Sure. When do you think that'll get changed?
Hopefully this year.
Okay.
All right, good.
The IRS committee, there's an advisory committee to the IRS. For the first time said to the IRS, you need to change this law. But the thing goes, the IRS says, well, the Treasury has to do it. The Treasury said, well, the Congress has to do it. It's the back and forth in Washington.
Oh, boy, because in my head, as you're talking about that tax that you have to pay on a year-long ticket like that every month, it doesn't get cashed out. Incredible.
Yeah.
That, to me, seems like that would be something that would be easily removed. But as long as they're going to
They had this office there, the Congress, that does the budget review and says, it's going to cost so many $6 billion to the revenue of the United States if we do this, which I think is an exaggerated number. But anyhow, we'll keep you updated. But that's the tough thing about holding a no future, right? Because there's a lot of these teams that are not going to win the Super Bowl. Of course. But you're going to lose the bet. You're also going to pay the tax. In this case, the tax is more than the bet.
All right, beautiful. Contest update, and also again the promotion. If people get the full house and what you offer, with you're going strong here. Good start.
It's terrific. Whether you get 5 entries, you get discounted rate, you get 10 entries combined. You're going to get free rooms at the D, or you can pay for an upgraded room at Circa. And if you do the full house, 3 free nights at Circa, any of the 3 hotels. The pacing is really incredible now. I was going back and looking. So it hasn't been updated yet on the board, but right now as we speak, 729 in millions. In Survivor, 298 in millions. That's 1,027, right? We only had 900 at the end of June last year with both of them combined.
Okay.
All right, and we still have 10 days left to go. So we're already ahead, and then it was like 230, 240 something now to 729 in Survivor. So almost triple.
Well, I would think a week from today, it's going to be up to 1,000 people.
We'll be over 1,000. I think maybe it'll be over 1,000 by Monday. We'll see. But is this going to project out? Can we extrapolate this kind of number? I know you guys said 12,000, but I mean, if this is any indication, maybe we blow through the 12,000.
Oh, it's because you always get that late push if you're getting an early push already.
Are people coming earlier? Or there's just new people?
I think new people.
We asked Jeff Benson. He had to change a tire yesterday, so he wasn't in. But we're going to ask him today to run the numbers about how many of these entries so far out of the 729, how many of these individuals were not in it last year.
That's a good question.
I walked by the book yesterday at 11 in the morning. There's 3 different proxy services. They're all with people waiting to go.
There you go.
Sign up, which is pretty strong on a Wednesday morning.
He had to change a tire yesterday?
Yeah.
You have not lived. Yesterday, you got a break because it wasn't super hot.
Oh.
You have not lived until you've had to change a tire in 115
heat?
degrees in Las Vegas.
But you say 150. Let's say it's 110. Coming off that asphalt, it's like 180. That's what they say at the artificial turf on these fields when it's hot. Remember when in Busch Stadium in St. Louis, hot and humid, they said, well, it's 98, but it's 130 on the turf.
That's right.
Yeah. Yep. Game 6 tomorrow. What do you think?
Well,
and no matter what happens, is McDavid the Conn Smythe winner?
So, unfortunately for me, I had Bobrovsky at 9-1 after Game 1 against the Rangers when he had the shutout. I sprinkled a little Barkov at plus 440, saying now I've got this locked up, right? Even because I thought it was closer than minus $5 plus 440 at that point. I thought Barkov had a better angle. I didn't touch McDavid. I think McDavid is the winner now, no matter what happened. Maybe if Bobrovsky they win 1-0 or something in Game 6, he could still salvage it. I heard you talking about the Jonathan Davis, the two-way market. Who wins? Conn Smythe. 10-1 is way too short, though.
I would not have bet that.
It's way too short, I think. I truly believe that if the Panthers are to win this series, they have to do it in Game 6 in Edmonton. I think the pressure will be too great on them having blown 3 straight games. You saw how tight they were. They got behind. They gave up the shorty breakaway.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, playing in front of your family and friends and the expectations and all the talk. The funny thing is, if this series was 2-2 and they had won Game 5, we wouldn't be hearing all these narratives, would we? Say,
right.
they go to Edmonton with a chance to clinch it. But because it went 3-0 and now 2, and they've dominated, really since the third period of Game 3, 7 straight periods, Edmonton has been the better team. I just think everyone's expecting the Oilers to win this game now. I think it's worth it to take the Panthers at even money in Game 6 and also bet Edmonton, which you can still get them at plus 275, 280 for the series. I think the bet makes sense.
So both of you have futures on the Panthers.
Yeah.
Did you get off that at all?
No, I have not.
No.
But
I took a little.
I'm looking at it because I think they can win here, Game 6.
Oh, money here on
If
Florida.
Well, if they lose Game 6, then I have to bet Edmonton in Game 7. But I think this is their shot to win it.
First goal is huge again.
You
You give up the shorthanded goal 5 minutes in. It's a killer.
It's very important for Edmonton to score the first goal because they get into that defensive. When they get the lead,
they
saw
shut
what they shut it down.
Shut it down.
Yeah.
They shut it. That's why Game 2 they had the 1-0 lead halfway through. That was a shot for them to steal that game in Florida, and they didn't do it. But when they get that lead, they absolutely become less concerned with shots on goal and more concerned with defending the blue line.
Yeah, all said. Up next, he'll run down the biggest gaffes of the previous week in no hyperbole. It's Follow the Money on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Wes Reynolds on golf. Always have to read his breakdowns. Nigel Seeley on soccer, VSiN contributor. Everything you want, check it out. Bookmark at vsin.com. Best bets, betting splits, odds by state. Our NFL betting guide next week. Shoemaker on the WNBA. Check it out, vsin.com. Here we go.
No bias.
You will respect my authority.
No pulled punches.
Your wife cheated on you because you lost sight of who you are as a man, as a husband.
No agenda.
There is no fear in this dojo.
This is no hyperbole.
This is the best part of the week.
Here's the maestro, Mike Baum.
All right, top 3 again this week, and we start at number 3 with When You Say Nothing at All. Rob Manfred issues a statement by Major League Baseball on Friday saying that umpire Pat Hoberg is being disciplined by Major League Baseball for violating their gambling policies. But because Hoberg is appealing the decision, they can't tell you what he did or what penalty they tried to give him. Here we go. Why was this statement even necessary? They made an announcement to say we can make no announcement. Pat Hoberg comes out and says, I'm appealing this and we proved I'm innocent. The umpires union comes out and says we were aware. Major League Baseball is investigating him. We're assisting him with the appeal. Let's just give a little bit of background on this. From Urbandale, Iowa, Pat Hoberg became a full-time umpire in 2017 and is largely regarded as one of the best umpires in baseball, top 3 in balls and strikes in all the polls amongst players and managers. Now, remember, Game 2 of the 2022 World Series between the Astros and the Phillies, he called the perfect game. From the umpire auditor, he didn't miss one pitch. The last regular season game he worked, gentlemen, was September 17th of last year. And then he was injured, missed the remainder of the regular season, and did not get any postseason assignments because Major League Baseball said he was injured. Was he? Now he comes back and umpires 2 games in spring training and they pull him off the field. I don't know anybody who was talking about this. I think the assumption was he was still injured. He tried to go out there and do this. Did somebody leak this story? Was there something coming out that Rob Manfred said, let's make a statement to say that he's under investigation, but not give any details of this? Well, what is the Major League Baseball policy for umpires on gambling? You can gamble on any other sport but baseball. You cannot bet on baseball at any level. Not Major League Baseball, not college baseball, not Olympic baseball, not high school, whatever it's offered on. Pan American baseball, Japanese baseball, you cannot bet on it. Now, Major League Baseball did say in the statement they're confident that none of the games that Hoberg umpired on were compromised. But here's a story that's dying for details, and once again, Rob Manfred, totally tone deaf. Wait till you have something concrete that you can say before you can say it. I mean, even the appeals process, if you think you've proved something that you're giving him a penalty, what do you think you've proved? Let him come out. People have to be indicted with their charges in a public format. All right. Number 2, check yourself. Tuesday night at Coors Field in Colorado. Of course, we all know this tremendous ninth inning and this call. What gets overshadowed here is another start where Walker Buehler got shelled again. This guy's ERA is 6. Let's not overlook this in the whole story of the National League season here. Betts is injured. Philly's got a great shot to get the 1 seed, if it means anything. Buehler 7 earned over 4 innings pitched, and the Rockies lead the Dodgers 9-4 going to the bottom of the ninth. 2 walks and a single, and Jason Hayward hits a grand slam with 1 out to cut the deficit to 9-8. Now they bring in Victor Vodnik. Ohtani singles. He strikes out Will Smith, and then Teoscar Hernandez comes up. 1-2 pitch. I want you to take a look at this if you're able to watch at home. The 2 different views of this. The check swing. The head-on view looks like he clearly went. The side view here, I'm not so sure. They appeal to Lance Barksdale. He says no swing. The announcers go nuts. Bud Black comes out of the dugout. He gets thrown out of the game. You can see Barksdale say it's not even close. Of course, the next pitch, 101 miles an hour. Hernandez takes it deep to right, and the Dodgers go ahead 11-9, and they win. It's very funny if you watch the tape. Jake Cave, who's the right fielder, as soon as the ball goes over the wall, starts running at Barksdale, screaming at him. Throws his glove. Cave says as he comes off the field, Barksdale says the same thing to him. Cave, it wasn't even close. Now, I don't know that you can say it wasn't close. Here's the bottom line. Let's wrap a big bow around this. Shouldn't we have some objectivity about what's a check swing? Everybody has a different opinion on what's a check swing. Did the barrel of the bat cross home plate? Did the batter break his wrist? Was there a swinging motion? Just put it in the rule book. What's a check swing? Because there's very, very many definitions that we can move off from. Let's not forget the fact that the Rockies blew a 5-run lead in the ninth. And then number 1, this is truly unbelievable. Foul play. These 2 Texas A&M fans against Florida. You know, the oddity of the whole thing and why this got caught live on cameras by ESPN is because there's a close call at third. So they pan to the Florida dugout to see if they want a challenge. And you see these 2 guys right on the side of the dugout screaming into the dugout. People on the scene, Eric Sorensen, who's a writer who follows college baseball, was there and could hear it all. Talked about what these 2 guys were saying, yelling at the head coach, Kevin O'Sullivan, that he killed somebody and he should be ashamed. So the background of this is really very tragic. So there's this family, the Reinhardts in Florida, right? They're going to go through a divorce. 2 kids, 14-year-old son Rex and a 12-year-old son Brody. The 12-year-old son Brody was a regular bat boy for the University of Florida team. There's a lot of you could read a lot of stories about this, going back and forth. The dad, they're a wealthy couple. Dad changed the life insurance policies to take the wife off of it. She's calling at him, screaming about, you're going to leave no money, tell him to kill himself, this and that. He takes the 2 boys and murders them, shoots them both in the back of the head. There's a law going to be in Florida where if minors are killed in a domestic dispute, you don't release the details of the autopsy. All off this case, calling it Brody's Law. Gruesome details. Then shoots himself, then sets the house on fire and burns down the house. The lady goes on and marries the head coach of Florida, the wife from this. So now they've been family friends for years. It said that all the reports I see, they never dated while she was still married. But these 2 Texas A&M fans now come down and are yelling at him about these 2 kids, like, you're the murderer. You're the reasons these kids are dead.
Oh, boy.
Oh, my God.
So the stadium security and then the Omaha police throw these 2 out. The Omaha Police Association came out with a statement. They want them barred from the city for life. Absolutely barred from the city for life. They gave him a 1-year suspension from the rest of the College World Series. The coach, Schlossnagel, who I showed with the Florida coach, said, I don't know who they are, but they don't represent what Texas A&M is all about. I hope they never come back. Do not let them into a ballpark. But you talk about despicable acts of fans. Here's one of them. I remember when Kerr's dad got kidnapped and they were chanting PLO when Arizona State, when he was at the free throw line. That ranks right up there with them with the despicable acts. That's no hyperbole.
I'm guessing they're not actually Texas A&M fans. but they don't like the guy or they don't like Florida, and they dressed up as A&M fans
That's a possibility.
to go there and heckle him.
That's a real possibility.
That's what I'm thinking the story is.
This never comes to light unless there was the call, because the camera happened to pick it up.
I don't think it
with what happened.
becomes a national story, but only because when they pan to the dugout, you see these two people in A&M shouting into the dugout, and the writer Sorensen says, and the Florida coaching staff shouted back a lot of expletives, get the F out, and all this, and this sort of stuff until security got there.
Yeah.
But it just happened to be caught on national TV because they were looking at the dugout to see if he would challenge.
Unruly behavior like that. We played this video earlier on, and this is all over social media for those of you listening in the radio audience as well. They're up in Reno, I guess this was. First of all, the kid who did this and hopped on the craps table, I honestly thought the person was 16 years old.
Oh, no.
They look very young. So evidently not. How does this happen? Where's security? Get him off the table. Break an arm. I don't care. Do whatever you got to do.
If I'm very concerned about what I have on the layout if I'm another
yeah,
player.
of course. Yes.
I'm getting my money back. Okay,
Yes,
I'm very, very concerned how much I have on the and how long is that going to take to reconstruct?
Well, then he starts firing chips at people, too. He starts throwing them at everyone. Oh, it's coming up right here. Look at this. He just starts throwing it.
Yep.
That's Sharon Stone in Casino.
Yes,
throws
it
them
is.
all up in the air.
Nick Cage and leaving Las Vegas.
You're right. And then he starts throwing them at people. Finally, security comes over.
Mike, what's the proper protocol
I
here?
think if I'm the dealer there, I pick him up and throw him right off the table. I mean, just to protect the integrity of the game.
I know. I'm getting a little aggressive here with the beatdowns, but I'm not joking about the security. How did it take more than 5 seconds to get him off the table?
It depends on where they are, but they should be there within 15 to 20 seconds. But this goes on and on and on here.
I know. That's the thing. That was my
It
takeaway.
almost looks like it's staged
Well.
to that point, to the point that it keeps going and going and going.
Strangest thing in your career? Any property? You can't say on air?
No, it would have to come from the poker table. When the guy stood up from the 5-seat, walked around and vomited on the dealer.
The pea soup again? The pea soup.
The pea soup.
Yeah.
And vomited
Still
on
the pea soup. I know.
And he was a doctor. He was actually a medical doctor. And he said, well, I was trying to get to the trash can. Kathy Steffen was the dealer. Kathy.
Wow,
Poor
what
Kathy.
a memory.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Kathy.
Maestro. Great to see you as
1998.
always.
Thank you.
B plus. Good man. You're a good
Richard
man.
Roper on the show up next. Longtime film and movie reviewer, also a big-time sports fan. We'll get his thoughts on the hype about the Bears this year coming up next.
Next week, our NFL betting guide drops, your ultimate resource for the football season, packed with detailed teams, divisions, analysis, best bets, props, everything we like, win totals. You got to be a VSiN Pro subscriber to get it. 13 months, less than 50 cents a day. That's how it works out. We throw in the extra month for free. Code FTM. VSiN.com/subscribe. Code FTM.
I love talking to our next guest. He's been on the show several times.
Yes.
He is excellent at what he does. Richard Roper joins the program now. Longtime film and TV reviewer for the Chicago Sun-Times. His podcast is called the Richard Roper Show Podcast, and he is on the Progressive Guest Line. Good morning, Richard. Thanks for the time today. How are you?
Listen, I'm going to several. How about 97? Let's go with that for the number of times I've been on. I'm like, I'm the Bob Hope to your Johnny Carson. I'm the Matt Damon to your Jimmy Kimmel.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Okay, before we get into TV shows that people need to catch up on during the summer months here, you're from Chicago. You're a lifelong sports fan as well. We talked about this earlier in the show. Pauly asked me about the most intriguing team in the NFL this year. We both agree that it's the Bears. What do you make about the hype surrounding this team going into 2024?
I'm usually very skeptical about hype. And in this case, I think it's actually merited, guys. Obviously in Chicago, we always go back to the 85 Bears, and then we had the Super Bowl where Rex Grossman was up against Peyton Manning. Guess how that worked out. But there have been so many seasons where they try to hype up the Bears, and we know in Chicago just from the preseason that they don't have it. Here's the next new quarterback. We got Jay Cutler. Oh, we got Mitch Trubisky. That's going to be. But this time around, guys, I've never seen a Bears offense with this much potential, including their championship team, because that team is really built around running and defense. They've never had a trio of receivers like this. They've got a really good young defense, and then of course, it all comes down to Caleb Williams. That. But the hype is over the top. But I think it actually kind of should be.
I'm with you, and I'm so excited about this team and the offense as well. Do you think it's 9-10 wins though? Is it a 10-win team? Do you see that?
I do. And that, which, now what do we have? A 17-game season, right? So that gets you right around the edge of the playoffs. The Lions are now the powerhouse in this division. Everything's been turned upside down, guys. But don't discount the Packers. We saw a huge development with Jordan Love last year, and that team has a lot of weapons. So all of a sudden, a division that has kind of historically been, grinded out defense, a lot of teams that don't seem that they have the sophisticated offenses of the 49ers and the Chiefs. All of a sudden, we're in the modern era here in the NFC.
Yeah. Well, you got to love this, by the way, as somebody who has watched the Packers eviscerate this team for 3 decades now, going from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers and into potentially a third quarterback who looked at the back end of last year anyway really, really good. That's got to just kill you, right? If Jordan Love's going to be like the next guy for Green Bay and they're better than Chicago still somehow, that's like the dagger, is it not?
Yeah, but it makes it more fun, too. And you just mentioned it. It's amazing. Like, they could have like about a 55 to 60-year run with 3 quarterbacks, which is just insane. But it makes it a lot more fun when you're like, okay, we got 2, Packers twice, Lions twice. We haven't even talked about the Vikings, who, have a lot of weapons as well. So these games that used to be a lot of 13 to 10 games, especially if they were playing outdoors, like here in Chicago, now you've got games that are literally worthy of prime time, and you're going to see a lot more of the Lions and the Bears on prime time.
Perfect timing as well. They just played. They play again Sunday. Reese against Caitlin Clark. It was the highest-rated WNBA game in 23 years. What do you think of the Sky and how Chicago feels about Angel Reese?
It's interesting because you see this outside perspective where, Chicago, they play rough and physical and they're the villains. But of course, you guys know, that when Dennis Rodman's on the Pistons, you hate him. When he's on the Bulls and you're a Bulls fan, you love him. And first of all, I don't think Angel Reese is a dirty player. A lot of the fouls that people are getting so worked up about, we see about 8 of those in 1 quarter of an NBA game. I mean, Derek White's getting his teeth smashed against the floor. Players are getting thrown into the 4th row. Kyrie's getting harassed by fans. So I think some of that's a little bit, I don't want to say sexism, but maybe people not used to watching the NBA. You guys, that's a bruising league. Those are athletes. This is not the basketball version of a league of their own where everybody's in skirts and bowing. This is basketball. So, and the Sky's not off to a great start. But Angel Reese, from the moment she got drafted, she came to town. She was tweeting out, "Where should I go for pizza? Oh, I'm getting the love here." And Caleb Williams has done the same thing, by the way. They're really very smart, but I think genuine, where they're embracing the city. Here's Caleb throwing out the first pitch at a Sox game. Here's Caleb in a Cubs jersey throwing out the first pitch. Here's Angel doing a charity fundraiser thing. They've immediately become part of the Chicago community.
All the money, Pauly and Mitch Visa, the Sports Betting Network. Richard Roper, our guest, Chicago Sun-Times film critic, also author of 9 books. Listen to his podcast as well. So June has been an unbelievable month here, and what's still coming up with the Bear with TV shows. One sports show. What are your thoughts on Clipped, the Donald Sterling tapes on Hulu, which we're halfway through?
I think it's kind of like, how the Clippers are always second fiddle to the Lakers. Even their scandal and their TV series is second fiddle to the Lakers. So Winning Time was so great, and we talked about how entertaining it was. Clipped is good, but not as great. And, listen, the casting, I think, is great. Lawrence Fishburne as Doc Rivers, Ed O'Neill as Donald Sterling. It's a very soap opera tale. It's amazing that was just 10 years ago, guys, the whole Donald Sterling racism, scandal, which of course led to him being kicked out of the NBA. I think they did a nice job with it. It's pretty cheesy. You'll notice too, if you've watched a few episodes, they don't do as much of the basketball as they did with Winning Time. I think, in some cases, maybe some of the guys playing I think the people playing the Lakers and guy playing Larry Bird, they look like they could ball a little bit, right? They, and they are at least pretty tall. I don't know so much with some of the actors don't have a lot of experience, and I don't think so. We're not getting, and also they didn't win anything, so we don't have, there's not as much on-court drama, but there's good off-court drama.
We talked about this yesterday on the show because Kevin Costner was in the booth during the Orioles-Yankees game on Tuesday night. Bob Costas was on the play-by-play, and they had him in for a long time, and it was great. And obviously, he's been in several sports movies. You're the perfect guy to ask about this. I ran it by. I'm generally disappointed in sports movies more often than I actually love them. There have been several really good sports movies, but also a ton of clinkers. Which side of the fence do you fall in with that? Do you like them more than you don't like them, or vice versa?
I think the key is what happens off the field. You know, like if you look, people talk about a great movie like Rudy. There's not a lot of football in Rudy. There's a lot of practice sessions. He made one play, but we started rooting for that character, right? You know, you look at something like Rocky. Is the boxing realistic? No, but we love Rocky Balboa so much. So I'm with you. They're few and far between. I think Kevin Costner, you know, if you look at, he did For the Love of the Game, but, you know, his most famous ones are Bull Durham and Field of Dreams, and those are almost more fables about baseball than realistic, you know, examinations of the pennant race.
Yeah, pretty much. And by the way, I said Paul disagreed with this. I have Bull Durham as a better movie than Field of Dreams. Am I out of my mind for that opinion?
I don't think so. I think, you know, even Kevin Costner has acknowledged that, you know, Field of Dreams is an insane story. It works because it was so beautifully done. But I mean, when you take a look back, whereas Bull Durham, although it was a comedy, it really captured life in the minor leagues, right? Ron Shelton, of course, who wrote and I think directed it, played in the minors. So I think for any of us that even came close to playing in any kind of organized ball at the level, which isn't the major leagues, which is 99.9% of it, I think it really captured that. You guys know, and for those towns, it's a big deal, and more than ever to have a minor league franchise that, you know, for in their own mid-size or smaller way, it's the same thing as having a major league team.
We'll get to the Bear coming up. The new season drops next week. Go back to what you said. You nailed it again. I loved Winning Time, especially the last season. The basketball scenes were so good, and they're just starting to get into the story and the rivalry with the Celtics. Someone's got to pick that up, right? Netflix, someone. They still have so many years stories to get to.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of it just had to do, it did pretty well, but it was so expensive to do because of all the recreations of the games, and you know, there's a lot of special effects that go into creating an arena from 40 years ago because they don't look like that anymore, or they've been demolished and rebuilt. So, you know, there's all that, and then you had a huge cast, and you know, when you look at, you know, John C. Reilly and everybody else who was in that, you know, a lot of the ball players weren't super famous, but most of the behind-the-scenes actors, they work a lot, guys, and I don't know if they're all available for, you know, it's tough. That's why with the Bear, they're going to do 4 seasons, and which is this year and next year. But you know, if you look at Io Adebiri and Jeremy Allen White and everybody else, they're doing movies, they're doing TV shows, they're busy, you know, and they have contracts. So a lot of times it's because the cast isn't available anymore.
Yeah, great answer. It's Follow the Money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. We'll continue with Richard Roper up next. We don't have much of a slow time in sports anymore, but right now maybe in the middle of a small stretch where it's slow. And we'll get into more TV shows that are now dropping for the summer months, including his thoughts on House of the Dragon Season 2, The Bear. His sister was involved in helping with making that show, and other thoughts on TV shows coming up on Follow the Money. It's VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Closing up shop today on a high note with Richard Roper. We were talking Bears, Angel Reese, and TV shows in the previous segment. Of course, Richard, longtime film and TV reviewer for the Chicago Sun-Times. His podcast is called The Richard Roper Show, and he's on the Progressive Guest Line. We all love The Bear. It won several awards after Season 2. Season 3 is coming out, next week is it now, Paul?
27th.
The 27th? Okay, it's going to drop. Your sister is involved with this show. Overall, your thoughts on The Bear, Richard, and what did your sister have to do in making The Bear?
Yeah, I think it's joining, you know, Ted Lasso and Succession and House of the Dragon as top 5, top 6 shows of the 2020s, right? I mean, it's the critics, as you mentioned, all the awards you could possibly get. It's hugely popular. So my sister Laura's what they call a prop master. She worked on Empire for years, a bunch of other stuff, but she's been with The Bear from the start. The prop master is, you know, responsible for all the props, all the knives, all the cutlery. When you're doing a period piece like Winning Time, if you were doing props for that, you got to make sure that the watch worn by the Kareem character would have been available in 74 to be accurate. So it's all of that. But in particular in this show, because so much of it is spent in the kitchen, it's getting the right pots and pans, talking to chefs from around the world. What's the most, the coolest cutting edge knife? What about that walk-in refrigerator? What should that look like? It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, my wife was a longtime chef. She and her chef friends have discussed how this is the most realistic look they've ever seen from a TV show, behind the scenes and in the kitchen. And there was an episode in season 2 called Forks where cousin, that guy he's got to go get a lesson on how to button up a little bit what he's doing. And he's cleaning the forks and the placement of all the forks and all the dishware in that episode. I thought that was one of the best episodes of the entire show.
I think people love that because Cuz has been kind of the most volatile, not necessarily always likable character. And then you saw this other side of him where he's like, I'm not going to F this up for once, But that was filmed actually at a restaurant called Ever, Ever, in Chicago, where they filmed, all of that over like a 10-day period. Beautiful restaurant. And again, there's chefs off camera saying, nah, he never would put the fork there or all of that. I'll tell you another quick fork story. The other famous episode, which was the Seven Fishes, where they had the, with the flashback scene with Jamie Lee Curtis and everybody. And everybody remembers the scene where John Bernthal's character keeps threatening to throw the fork at Bob Odenkirk. He goes, don't you throw that fork. So my sister made up 12 forks that were rubber because you can't have an actual fork, right? And she had to tell John Bernthal that he was so intense and so into character, he'd be bending the fork while he was threatening to throw it at Odenkirk's character. And some of the little paint, and my sister took him aside. She's like, John, you got one fork left. You better hit him this time. And because you're ruining my forks.
That's excellent.
That was an intense episode.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Well done. Well done. Great story as well. So I know I saw your tweet and your review as well. I'm expecting big things of the House of Dragons Season 2. We're off to a good start. It's going to be chaos, a Targaryen civil war here, and so many dragons involved. I thought they were up against it in Season 1 because they had to do with the time jumps. And as you point out, everyone has the same damn name or similar names as you tweeted. But I'm expecting big things. There's supposed to be an episode that rivals Battle of the Bastards with an epic war scene, fight scene with dragons. Take us through Season 2 and what we're looking at here with House of Dragon.
Yeah, they kick into, the buildup, you got your Team Green and Team Black, as people refer to them, and there's wars coming. And then war finally arrives in one of the middle episodes. And the battle sequences, it's very interesting because dragons are sort of almost a myth and, seen here and there in Game of Thrones. They're thriving in House of the Dragon. It's almost like who's got the bigger military, who's got the bigger dragon. Yeah. And the special effects and the crowd sequences. I mean, you can tell they're spending like $15 million an episode on this show, guys. And as far as all the characters, I get to a certain point where I'm like, if I don't know for sure if that's somebody's uncle, but also their husband, or if that's the third cousin, I just go with it. It usually just comes, you kind of figure it out at some point. And I also sometimes I watch it with subtitles. My hearing's fine, but I like watching it with the closed caption on. Because then I'm like, oh, okay. Because now I know who they're talking about.
Yeah. Oh, great point, too, about the budget. Every episode's a movie and how much they spend on this, and it goes back to Game of Thrones. So while I was getting ready to watch the last episode, I saw the trailer for the new documentary about Stevie Van Zandt. How was this?
Oh, that's great. Obviously you have to be a Springsteen fan, a Miami Steve fan. But Stevie Van Zandt's such an interesting guy. When you look at his career, obviously all the stuff he's done with Springsteen through the years, his solo career. He did the big Sun City, which was a huge activism thing. But then out of nowhere, he becomes Silvio on maybe the greatest television series of all time, guys. So when you think about it, Stevie Van Zandt has played consigliere to two of the great pop culture icons of our lives, the fictional Tony Soprano and the real Bruce Springsteen. That's incredible.
Yeah. Terrific point. Okay, that's going to go on the list. We were asking, people were asking us to get you on to get your thoughts on Presumed Innocent, which is the new limited series on Apple with Jake Gyllenhaal, of course, the famous movie with Harrison Ford. What are your thoughts on this?
My thoughts are, it's unnecessary. It's well made. Jake Gyllenhaal's really good, but they stretch out over 8 episodes. What the movie did perfectly. Guys, that movie is like a perfect thriller for like that late 80s, early 90s when we had all those great courtroom thrillers. And it was a movie. It was 2 hours long. Now they're giving us 8 episodes. They eliminated some of the most important characters. They added a bunch of unnecessary therapy sessions and melodrama. And I don't know, Jake Gyllenhaal, I think, is one of our best actors. Zodiac, Source Code, Prisoners. And now he's remaking shit. You don't need to remake Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze. We have Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze. We have Presumed Innocent with Harrison Ford. We don't need these remakes.
What'd you think of Donnie Darko with him?
I loved it.
It was great.
And, he's so young in that movie, but he's a really talented and smart guy. And I think he must have been binge watching during COVID, like all the 80s and 90s movies and shows. And I'm like, what's he gonna do next? Gremlins 3? I'm like,
That's a great point. I think the documentary, I haven't watched it yet, but Bratz, about the Brat Pack. Come on, that's in the wheelhouse of a lot of us here growing up with those young actors. Is that worth watching?
Yeah, and Andrew McCarthy's still mad about being called the Brat Pack. So he goes to Demi Moore's house, Emilio Estevez, Ali Sheedy, and he hasn't seen a lot of these people in 40 years, which is kind of amazing when you think about it, because they stopped working together. And he seems a lot more hung up on the Brat Pack thing. And it's kind of fun because when he visits all these stars, you can play a game of who has the bigger house. Is it Rob Lowe? You can see the ocean behind him. Wait a minute, here comes Demi Moore. I'm like, I think all of them did pretty well after being in the Brat Pack.
Yes, no doubt about it. There's so much, with Netflix and everything we're talking about in June and Hulu. Is there anything you recommend that we haven't hit on, or stuff that's out there, because there's so many streaming services available and everyone's doing TV? Is there anything you recommend?
It's a great point. And when we talk about it, is sort of that in between, we've got Hard Knocks and with the Bears and all these things coming up soon. But there's actually, believe it or not, Netflix is doing a reality series about the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, 8-part series. And it follows the tryouts and everything. And it's kind of interesting because it's like, I think we sort of think, they just look great in their costumes and they do leg kicks. They're all like highly trained dancers. They got day jobs. It's actually a pretty good reality show. So, and it's football adjacent, guys. You see the Cowboys are extras in this. So look for that one, Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. And then Netflix is going to have a series coming in a couple of weeks called Receiver. And you know how they did the quarterback show where they stayed, they embedded with Kirk Cousins and Mahomes. They embed with Jefferson of the Vikings. I know Debo's in there. There's 5 receivers that they spent all of last season with. It's called Receiver, Netflix documentary series for all your audience. It's right down their alley. All
right, very good. You can follow Richard on X. He is at Richard E. Roper. Also, his podcast is called The Richard Roper Show. Excellent appearance, as always, my friend. Thanks so much for the time today. We really appreciate that.
Good talking to you guys. Take care now.
There you go. Long-time reviewer of film and TV for the Chicago Sun-Times, Richard Roper, on the progressive guest line here this morning.
Look at this. Apple TV, Hulu, HBO, Netflix.
Yep.
Got to have all of them.
I started to cut the cord like 9 or 10 years ago, and it was effective, and it worked, and I had no problems with it. And now it's like, you just go back to, what are you going to do?
Yeah. The Boys is Amazon Prime, right?
It is,
there's the other one you got to have. What's Severance on? That's Apple. Okay,
Apple.
That's
Paramount is another one.
Yep. Paramount.
People need to have. You got to have the Peacock for extra sports, whatever.
Yep.
So that's like 7, 8 that we're already talking about.
The Bear's Hulu, I think.
The Bear is Hulu.
So that right now, I had to get Hulu for Clipped, and I think Only Murders in the Building is that
That's
too.
Hulu as well.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So we have soccer going on today. The College World Series starts tomorrow as well, and we have Game 6 tomorrow night. Do you have an early play on this game? Are you panicking yet with that big bet that you have on the Panthers?
Yeah, I had to take a little plus 320 and plus 7 to 1 before game, or whatever it was for. But second period over. I love that bet.
That's it for us today. Stay tuned. A numbers game is next. You can listen at vsin.com. Good luck today.